My Friend Pedro was a game that I was so excited for when it was announced by Devolver Digital, and the trailers were insanely flashy, depicting this masked man doing all sorts of insane tricks while shooting multiple guys at once with akimbo submachine guns. This trailer left me reasonably skeptical, questioning just how they planned on implementing all of these mechanics so the game could be reasonably played similarly to how it is in the trailer. Even with all of the keys on a keyboard, these actions need to be bound in a way that makes them all intuitive, and that's my first point of contention with My Friend Pedro. Sadly, I don't find these mechanics to be implemented in the intuitive manner that I was hoping for. Some other mechanics are implemented fine, but there's so much to keep track of that I find myself forgetting to do some crucial actions, like dodging, especially because dodging interrupts properly aiming. You would have to learn exactly when to shoot while your character is spinning around, when your guns are actually pointed towards the person or people you're trying to shoot. Split aiming, what I would call this game's standout feature, is probably the least convenient of all the mechanics in terms of pacing, as you have to manually mouse over whoever you are trying to shoot with your secondary weapon, while you aim at your primary. This works fine when two split enemies are telegraphed and already in position, but when there's more than one pair, you have to mouse back over and reposition your secondary cursor to shoot at your new target. I also found that the fact that enemy corpses just absorb your bullets totally kills the pacing, and it just never felt right to use focus. Making the corpses not become bullet sponges and reworking split aim would vastly improve the game for me. Maybe holding control gives you control of your other arm only, and you can reposition the arm itself to lock into whatever angle you want it to aim without needing to mouse over. It would still be a bit inconvenient, but at least you wouldn't have to move your mouse from the left side to the right and then back to your left just to split aim somewhere else. Or you could just make it automatic. All of these flashy mechanics of this game makes me feel like My Friend Pedro was designed specifically for the trailer. Thankfully, a lot of these mechanics are used less frequently towards the end area, but the end of the first area and pretty much the entirety of the second area are frustrating cavalcades. I entered the game quite enthusiastically, and was excited as each new mechanic was introduced for me, but the game just gets dense in the area between the start and acquiring the shotgun. My enjoyment factor from start to finish was essentially the shape of a W, the middle being where I get the shotgun, and the end being when I get the sniper. Don't be too downtrodden by my complaints about My Friend Pedro though, because these are my only problems. If you're a perfectionist, this game is definitely geared towards you more so than a one and done player like me. My Friend Pedro is definitely what I would call a speedrunner's game. If you want to sink more than 3 hours into getting S ranks on every stage, or even climb the global leaderboards, this game is definitely worth it. But of course you have to play it first to sink your teeth into it, and get oriented with every stage. Getting every achievement is also quite fathomable, the hardest simply being to get an S rank on every level. What about the story? It's definitely nothing to write home about on its own, but the ending is quite interesting and makes up for the dull build-up. Plus, I actually loved the final boss. Story-wise, it's totally empty up until the internet area. The worst section is the Pedro's World levels, towards the middle of the game. They really just kill the story pace, and it seems like they only exist to pad out the game's length, and try too hard to be quirky. Realizing the game is for perfectionists who plan to sink more time into it, I have to give My Friend Pedro a 6 out of 10. But keep in mind that that's simply on first playthrough on hard. Of course I'm keeping the idea of mastery in mind, but that's for those people to decide for themselves. I guess I can word it like this. Upon first playthrough, My Friend Pedro is a 6 out of 10, and it can only get better from there as you improve at its mechanics. Also, the soundtrack is pretty lit. Sadly, I don't have much else to say about My Friend Pedro, as it's not really that in-depth of a game to write about. Feel free to comment about how wrong I am, or suggest more games for me to talk about down below. Follow me on Twitch to watch me play games before I write about them, and just hang out while I dick around. Join my Discord to perpetually keep track of me and constantly get at everyone when I go live. Thanks for listening, and peace.